You've probably heard this 1,000 times: gold is a safe haven. But what if I told you that's only half the story? Gold isn't just a hedge against inflation or a rainy day asset. It's a tool of power. A lever. A weapon in the silent war of economic control. Let's peel back the shiny surface and look at the real game. Gold isn't free, it's managed. We like to think of gold as pure, incorruptible, immune to manipulation. But gold isn't outside the system, it's part of it. In fact, it's carefully managed by some of the most powerful institutions in the world. The Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, the Bank of England, and others hold massive gold reserves. Why? Not because they're stacking it up for fun, but because gold influences currency strength. It's a backup for trust, a counterbalance to fiat money, and, most importantly, a signal. When central banks buy gold, it's not random. It's a message. A warning. A move on the global chessboard. Gold and the Fed, silent dance of power. The US dollar is the world's reserve currency. That gives the US unmatched influence, but also immense responsibility. When the Federal Reserve raises or cuts interest rates, it doesn't just affect mortgages and credit cards in America, it shakes the entire financial ecosystem, including gold. When rates go up, gold usually drops. Why? Because cash suddenly becomes more attractive. Gold doesn't pay interest. So investors move their money into dollar assets. But here's the twist, the Fed knows this. And so do governments and hedge funds. The game isn't just about price, it's about timing and signaling. You might see gold as a commodity. They see it as a currency. A psychological anchor. A control switch. Gold supply is not just about mines. Another illusion, that gold supply is dictated solely by how much is mined from the earth. That's only part of it. In reality, central banks hold over 30,000 metric tons of gold, and they can release or withhold it from the market strategically. Gold leasing, swaps between banks, and even covert agreements can suppress or spike prices, without ever touching the mine shaft. Ask yourself, why haven't we seen gold hit $5,000 or $10,000 despite massive money printing? Simple, because it's not just a market, it's a managed system. And you, the retail investor, only see the surface. Gold is insurance, but against what? Most people buy gold thinking it's insurance against collapse. But collapse of what? If you look closer, what gold really insures against is confidence loss. When people stop trusting governments, currencies, or markets, gold spikes. This means that gold isn't just reacting to crisis, it's a barometer of trust. It's a mirror showing how strong, or fragile, the system really is. But here's the truth no one tells you, gold is also a tool of that system. It's used to build trust, and sometimes to manipulate it. If you don't control gold, you're playing someone else's game. If you think buying a few coins or bars puts you in control, think again. Retail ownership of gold is a tiny fraction of total reserves. The real power lies in institutions, banks, and nations. So, if you're trying to protect your wealth, gold can help. But if you're trying to understand a game, you have to see it for what it really is, a manipulated asset in a larger system of financial control. Taxation, the quiet architect of behavior. UST, the word can make your stomach turn. Most of us think of taxes as money the government takes from our paycheck. But what if I told you taxes are not just about taking your money? Taxes are one of the most powerful tools for controlling your behavior, without you even realizing it. Taxes shape what you do, not just what you pay. Ever wonder why electric cars get tax breaks? Or why certain industries enjoy decades of deductions while others get buried in red tape? It's simple: taxes shape behavior. When the government wants more of something, like green energy or home ownership, they offer tax incentives. When they want less of something, like smoking or carbon emissions, they increase taxes. It's not just about funding the budget. It's social engineering wrapped in economic policy. And you're not just paying, you're being steered. Tax codes are maps of power. The US tax code is over 70,000 pages long. Why? Because it's not built to be simple. It's built to be strategic. Within that labyrinth of rules are rewards and punishments, carve-outs for corporations, shelters for the wealthy, and deductions that favor long-term investments over labor income. It's not an accident. It's the roadmap of who the system is designed to benefit. When someone says, "the rich don't pay taxes," they're usually wrong. The rich pay, but they also understand the rules of the game, and they play it better than anyone else. Taxes are used to manage risk, but not yours. During recessions, you'll often see tax relief for corporations. Stimulus packages. Write-offs. Bailouts. But where is your bailout when rent is due? Here's the truth: taxes are shock absorbers for the system, but they often protect the system itself, not the people inside it. The tax code is designed to preserve economic momentum, not personal security. If you're not part of the machine, you don't get the same cushion. That's not justice. That's design. Taxation isn't theft, it's leverage. There's a popular phrase, taxation is theft. But here's a more accurate version. Taxation is leverage. It's how governments direct money, without directly owning it. Want people to save for retirement? Offer 401k tax deferrals. Want businesses to invest in equipment? Create depreciation incentives. Governments don't need to own the economy to control it. They just need to make obedience profitable, and resistance expensive. Your decisions are already being taxed. Every choice you make has a tax implication. Rent versus mortgage. Employee versus contractor. Stocks versus bonds. Even marriage comes with tax consequences. The question is, did you make those choices for yourself, or did you make them because the tax code nudged you? That's the real kicker. We like to think of ourselves as free agents in a free market. But the truth is, many of our financial decisions were made in advance, by policymakers, legislators, and economic architects. Monetary policy, the invisible hand that moves your life. You check your bank account. You budget your groceries. You track your investments. But behind all of it, there's a ghost. An invisible force deciding how much your dollar is worth, what your rent will cost next year, and whether your job will still exist in 6 months. That force is monetary policy. And whether you understand it or not, it understands you. Monetary policy, the invisible hand that moves your life. The Fed isn't just a bank, it's the nerve center of the economy. Let's break the myth. The Federal Reserve isn't some distant bureaucratic institution. It's the central nervous system of America's economy. Every time the Fed adjusts interest rates, they're not just making financial moves. They're sending signals, to Wall Street, to Main Street, and to your subconscious. They raise rates. Borrowing gets expensive. They cut rates. Money floods the system. This isn't abstract. This is cause and effect that hits your mortgage, your credit card interest, and the cost of starting a business. Interest rates control your confidence. Most Americans don't understand interest rates. But almost all Americans feel them. When rates are low, people buy homes, start businesses, swipe credit cards freely. When rates go up, they pull back, freeze spending, delay dreams. The Fed isn't just managing inflation or employment, they're managing emotion. Because consumer confidence is the fuel of the US economy. And when confidence is down, even the best business plans collapse. Monetary policy doesn't just respond, it shapes reality. You might think the Fed reacts to the economy. Wrong. It shapes the economy. By creating trillions of dollars in new money through quantitative easing, or by tightening the money supply through interest hikes, it redraws the playing field in real time. Stock markets boom, often fueled by cheap money. Real estate bubbles, supercharged by low-interest loans. Even wage stagnation, job creation, and startup trends are reflections of how loose or tight money is flowing. The game isn't just influenced by monetary policy. The game is monetary policy. Money is created out of thin air, but you pay the price. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Money is no longer tied to gold or any real asset. It's a faith-based system, built on confidence and credit. The Fed prints money digitally. Banks lend out 10 times more than they actually have. It's efficient, until it isn't. And who pays when the game resets? You do. In higher food prices. In housing you can't afford. In savings that quietly lose value year after year. Money is created for free, but its erosion is your burden. The system is built for those who move early. When the Fed cuts rates, who benefits first? The wealthy. The asset holders. The institutional investors who move in milliseconds. By the time the average person reacts, it's too late. The market's already up. The deals are already taken. The ladder's already pulled. That's why understanding monetary policy isn't a luxury, it's survival. Inflation, the quiet thief in the room. You work a full-time job. You save. You invest. You do everything right. But year after year, something strange happens. You're working harder, and yet somehow, you feel like you're falling behind. That something has a name: inflation. It doesn't break into your home. It doesn't take your wallet. But it steals your future, $1 at a time. Inflation isn't just price hikes, it's value loss. We're told inflation is just a natural rise in prices. Groceries cost more. Rent goes up. Gas eats a bigger chunk of your paycheck. But that's not the full story. Inflation isn't just about things getting more expensive. It's about your money becoming less valuable. That $100 bill in your pocket today, it buys less tomorrow. Not because the items changed, but because your money weakened. Inflation doesn't raise the cost of living. It lowers the value of living. The government has incentives to understate it. Ever feel like the official inflation numbers don't reflect reality? That's because they often don't. The Consumer Price Index, CPI, used to measure inflation, is adjusted constantly. Items get swapped out. Weightings get changed. The basket evolves. Why? Because high reported inflation would increase government spending, social security, pensions, etc. Expose the real effects of money printing. Undermine faith in the dollar. So instead of admitting inflation is running high, they massage the data. Meanwhile, your paycheck stays the same, your rent climbs, and your lifestyle shrinks. Inflation rewards the borrower, punishes the saver. This is the cruel paradox. If you save money, inflation erodes its value. If you borrow money, inflation helps you pay it back with weaker dollars. Who benefits? Governments with national debt. corporations with leverage, real estate investors with long-term fixed loans. Who loses? Average workers, fixed income retirees, families living paycheck to paycheck. In short, the system rewards those who use money as a tool and penalizes those who simply hold on to it. Inflation changes how you think. Inflation doesn't just hurt your wallet. It reshapes your psychology. You delay vacations. You skip doctor's visits. You stress over bills. You stop thinking long-term and start living week to week. This mental shift weakens households, communities, and dreams. Inflation shrinks your horizon. It replaces vision with survival. And over time, that chronic stress doesn't just damage finances, it damages health, relationships, and self-worth. The most dangerous inflation is the kind you don't notice. Hyperinflation grabs headlines. But what about slow inflation? The kind that quietly chips away at your lifestyle for 10, 20, 30 years. That's the most dangerous kind. Because you adjust. You normalize it. You stop asking questions and start lowering expectations. You settle for less. You accept the grind. You trade dreams for deadlines. And all the while, the system quietly extracts value from your life, without ever asking your permission. The system is rigged, unless you learn the rules. You've heard the pieces. Gold isn't just a safe haven. Taxes aren't just revenue. Monetary policy isn't background noise. Inflation isn't just numbers on a chart. These aren't isolated forces. They're components of a design. A game. And here's the truth you were never meant to see. The economy is built like a maze. And 90% of people are just running in circles. You were born into a pre-programmed economic script. Go to school. Get a job. Take on debt. Buy a home. Work for 40 years. Retire. That script wasn't written for your freedom. It was written for your compliance. It makes you predictable. Controllable. A piece that fits neatly into the machinery of government revenues, corporate profits, and banking systems. The economic model thrives on your participation, but only as a consumer and a worker, not a player. You weren't taught to understand the system. You were trained to function inside it. Most people are playing a game they don't know exists. Ever feel like others know something you don't? That's because they do. High net worth individuals, corporations, and financial elites don't just have more money. They play by a different rulebook. They use tax codes like chess pieces. They respond to monetary policy, not react to it. They move before inflation hits. They accumulate assets while most people accumulate bills. It's not conspiracy. It's not magic. It's information. And it's access. Compliance is rewarded, until it isn't. The system rewards those who don't ask questions. It gives you just enough comfort to stay quiet. But here's the problem. When things go wrong, when a recession hits, when inflation spikes, when your job disappears, you carry the risk. Not the bank. Not the billionaire. Not the policymaker. They've hedged. You haven't. Because you followed the rules. Their rules. Freedom starts when you stop playing blind. So how do you break free? You start by seeing the game for what it is. That doesn't mean becoming a doomsdayer or fleeing to the mountains with gold bars. It means taking ownership of your decisions. Learn the tax code like it's a second language. Watch the Federal Reserve like you watch the weather. Invest in assets that rise with inflation. Question the incentives behind every financial norm. Stop asking, what should I do? Start asking, who profits if I do this? Financial freedom doesn't start with more income. It starts with more awareness. You can't opt out, but you can opt smart. You can't unplug from the economy. You live in it. You use its money. You follow its laws. But you don't have to play like everyone else. Understand the rules, and you get leverage. Learn the hidden strategies, and you gain control. Play offense, not just defense, and you change the game for yourself. This isn't about beating the system. It's about stopping the system from beating you.